Science!
Welcome to Science This Week. This week, let's take a brief look at some of the most exciting new developments in the future of space travel. NASA and SpaceX have completed one of the final tests of the Crew Dragon spacecraft. The companies worked together to complete a launch escape demonstration of the Crew Dragon spacecraft on Sunday, January 19th in 2020. This was a major test to see if the spacecraft could safely separate from the rocket if there happens to be an in-flight emergency. NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine said, "This critical flight test puts us on the cusp of returning the capability to launch astronauts in American spacecraft on American rockets from American soil. We are thrilled with the progress NASA's Commercial Crew program is making and look forward to the next milestone for Crew Dragon." As part of the test, SpaceX configured Crew Dragon to trigger a launch escape about a minute and a half after liftoff. All major functions were executed, including separation, engine firings, parachute deployment, and landing. Crew Dragon splashed down just off the Florida coast in the Atlantic Ocean. Elon Musk, the chief engineer at SpaceX, said, "As far as we can tell thus far, it's a picture-perfect mission. It went as well as one can possibly expect. This is a reflection of the dedication and hard work of the SpaceX and NASA teams to achieve this goal." Here's a clip of the video of the launch.
The Dragon spacecraft is waiting for liftoff. We have retracted, and you can see in the video the strongback is moved away just about 2 degrees in readiness for liftoff. We have also finished loading liquid oxygen onto both the stages, so the Falcon 9 is just about ready.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition, liftoff, simplify, aim high. Go Falcon, go Dragon.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Stable for Volta.
T plus 30 seconds. Falcon 9 with the Crew Dragon capsule is heading east from pad 39A. Everything looking good right now. As we get ready for max dynamic pressure, we are now throttling down the first stage engines on the Falcon
power
9.
and telemetry nominal.
Everything continues to look good. We're approaching the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
Vehicle is supersonic and passing through maximum dynamic pressure.
You've heard we're supersonic. We're through max Q. We're getting ready now to throttle the engines back up on the first stage.
Stage 1, throttle up.
There's the call out. Okay, the major activity coming up in just over 10 seconds. Shutdown and Dragon escape from the Falcon 9.
Miko. Dragon launch escape initiated.
Dragon's away.
And you can hear some really loud cheering in the room. Okay, you just saw a bright flash there. It looks like that may be Falcon 9 breaking up. We've got some loud cheers here in Hawthorne. The folks that just watched live the Dragon separate.
Prior to the flight test, teams completed launch day procedures for the first crewed flight test, from suit-up to launch pad operations. The joint teams now will begin the full data reviews that need to be completed prior to NASA astronauts flying the system during SpaceX Demo 2 mission. You know I'll keep you updated about all these new developments as we get closer to launch time. And that goes right into the next thing of NASA getting ready to go back to the moon with the Artemis program. 2020 will be an exciting year for NASA at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, as teams will be working to prepare for the launch of Artemis 1, the first uncrewed launch of the SLS, or Space Launch System rocket, and the Orion spacecraft. As we get ever closer to the dawn of the Artemis missions, more and more simulations will be happening. These types of simulations include walking through the final portions of the launch countdown sequence, or what is called the terminal countdown, and other simulations made to ensure that all the teams are ready to work together in unison. Lots of testing will continue to happen at the VAB, or Vehicle Assembly Building, and the launch complex. In the VAB, the mobile launcher will continue to be tested, and the final tests of the flight hardware for the Orion crew module will happen there as well. Launchpad 39B is getting a liquid hydrogen upgrade, which will add a second 1.4 million gallon storage sphere of liquid hydrogen. This upgrade will allow NASA to try for launches on 3 consecutive days in the case of a scrub of a launch for weather or system failure. Plus, this will also reduce the liquid hydrogen burn-off, allowing for more launch attempts before having to refill the tanks. Speaking of Orion, the spacecraft is finishing up its environmental tests in a unique NASA facility in Ohio and will return to Kennedy Space Center to have its solar array wings installed. This Orion spacecraft will be used for the Artemis 1 mission, the uncrewed test flight of the spacecraft, and the SLS rocket system, which will happen later this year. The systems for the Artemis 2 mission and its spacecraft are being put together with what is being learned from getting ready for Artemis 1, and that will be a crewed mission that will take place in 2022. We are headed back to the moon, and it is really exciting. NASA is constantly making new videos and new articles to enjoy that are just chronicling everything that's going into our mission to the moon and to Mars with the Artemis program. And you can find all of that on the NASA YouTube page and also at nasa.gov. I've shared actually some of these on past episodes. And this week I wanted to share a new video that is narrated by Kelly Marie Tran, who is Rose Tico in the new Star Wars.
Between 1968 and 1972, America launched 9 human missions to the moon, 6 of which successfully touched down, allowing 12 men to walk on the lunar surface. NASA's next chapter of lunar exploration, called Artemis, has the task of not just going to the moon to create a long-term human presence on and around it, but also to prepare for ever more complex human missions to Mars. In short, everything we must be able to do here, we must first do here. So, what will an Artemis mission look like? Everything is designed and tested with our most important element in mind, the astronauts. This is their deep space, human-rated spacecraft called Orion, built in 3 parts. The crew module, where up to 4 astronauts will live and work throughout the flight. The service module, with life support systems for the crew and its own engine and fuel reserves. And a launch abort system, with engines capable of pulling the crew module to safety during launch should anything go wrong. To accomplish the task of launching our crew and heavy payloads, NASA is building the Space Launch System, comprising of a cargo hold, an exploration upper stage, a massive core stage, and 2 extended solid rocket boosters. Altogether, this is the world's most powerful rocket, and it exceeds the legendary Saturn V of the Apollo era in numerous ways. Sitting on the launch pad, the entire rocket, fully fueled, weighs just over 6 million pounds, 5.2 million of which is just the fuel. Once ignited, there is no stopping what comes next. All 4 RS-25 engines and the 2 solid rocket boosters come to life, thundering our crew upwards. 2 minutes after ignition, the solid rocket boosters are spent and released. 8 minutes after launch, the core stage is depleted and separated. The upper stage fires briefly, placing Orion into a parking orbit around the Earth. Here, the crew reconfigure the spacecraft and check systems to confirm everything is ready for deep space travel. With a go from mission control, the crew reignite the exploration upper stage engines to leave Earth entirely. The exact timing of this maneuver is critical to reach a speed that can escape Earth's gravitational pull, but also put Orion on a course that will intersect the moon days later. Once this burn is complete, the upper stage of the SLS is jettisoned and the crew aboard Orion coast for several days toward all that awaits them at the moon. Approaching the moon, we see the fundamental differences between Artemis and Apollo. Instead of requiring Orion to serve as an expendable lunar command module or to carry a constrained lunar lander, the Artemis missions will take advantage of a different approach: pre-staging. Everything needed for lunar missions will be positioned in advance by commercial and international partners. This includes rovers, science experiments, and human-rated systems on the surface. But it also includes a dedicated lunar station in orbit around the moon called Gateway. Here at this station, we can pre-stage a robust lunar lander and establish a strong communications relay. Designed Designed with open standards, the Gateway can be expanded as new missions and partnerships develop, allowing multiple human missions on the moon at the same time and enabling ongoing science to be conducted even between human missions. The Gateway is also capable of adjusting its orbit to allow access to every part of the moon, something the Apollo missions could not do. But the real key in this approach is placing Gateway in a unique halo orbit to perfect the maneuvers needed for Mars missions. And with the growing list of commercial and international opportunities, Gateway is the ideal hub between Earth and all that lies beyond. Returning to our crew as they approach Gateway, the Orion must match the elliptical orbit of the station in order to successfully dock. Once on board, pre-selected crew members transfer to the lunar lander, while those assigned to Gateway remain on station. The lunar lander system itself is built for 3 unique steps: descending from the halo orbit of Gateway down to a low lunar orbit, descending from low lunar orbit to the surface, and once the lunar mission is complete, launching from the surface of the moon and ascending all the way back to the orbiting Gateway. Once back aboard the Orion spacecraft and undocked from Gateway, the crew fire their engine once to break out of the halo orbit and once again to sling the spacecraft around the moon, placing it on a multi-day trajectory back towards Earth. As they near the end of this journey, the service module is released, and the crew module is oriented heat shield first. Entering Earth's atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour, the friction of air slows Orion considerably, while also subjecting it to temperatures of 5,000 degrees. With the Orion now at just 300 miles per hour, a series of parachutes uniquely tested and produced for this moment deploy, decelerating the craft to just 20 miles per hour for splashdown. With each successful mission, Artemis ushers in the next wave of men and women to explore our moon and prove that together we are ready to go beyond.
Speaking of the moon, NASA's new moon rover is currently being tested. An engineering model of the Volatiles Investigating Polar Exploration Rover, or the VIPER, is currently undergoing tests at NASA's Simulated Lunar Operations Laboratory. This rover is about the size of a golf cart and will be deployed around the moon's south pole to look for water ice in the same region that the first woman and the next man will land on the moon in 2024. They are currently testing the traction of the wheels on material that mimics the lunar surface. Daniel Andrews, the project manager of the VIPER mission, said, "The key to living on the moon is water, the same as here on Earth. Since the confirmation of lunar water ice 10 years ago, the question now is if the moon could really contain the amount of resources we need to live off-world. This rover will help us answer the many questions we have about where the water is and how much there is for us to use." Check out this short video animatic from NASA about the VIPER mission. I am just so excited about all the new discoveries in the future of space exploration and the next generation of space travelers. It's so exciting. And you know, if you tune in to the science segment right here on Fueled by Deathcast, I'll continue to talk about all of this throughout the year of 2020 and in the years to come.